Hello there. Today I'm going to be discussing boycotting. Boycotting has existed for an extremely long time, so long that I have absolutely no idea when the first boycott was. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with boycotting. Boycotting is basically just a form of peaceful protest. You just decide that you no longer like or support a person or a brand, so you simply stop purchasing anything that has to do with them and move on with your life. Absolutely nothing wrong with that at all at surface value. The problem is, and it seems like in the last couple of years it's gotten steadily worse and worse, boycotting doesn't seem to stop at just boycotting anymore. Instead, it goes from one person quietly deciding that they no longer like somebody or, again, some brand and basically writing them off to doing that, jumping the gun on certain allegations and starting this guilt trip culture against anyone who has a different opinion from them. And I'm going to kind of break all this down for you because I know that I just threw a lot of information at you at the very beginning of this video. So I'm going to use Johnny Depp as my example because he's somebody that everyone is aware of and most people know most current news about him, no matter what subculture you are a part of. Everybody knows about the allegation that he had beaten his wife and that he was an alcoholic again and that he was possibly doing drugs again and a lot of bad stuff all at once, quite frankly. Now, I am someone who spends most of their time online because I'm trying to build up my social media presence. So the second the story of Johnny Depp hitting his wife, apparently multiple times, hit the tabloid news, I saw it right away. Now, I took a lot of psychology and logic courses in college. And when you take psychology and logic courses, one of the first things they teach you is obviously to look at everything logically, to put your emotions aside, to not jump to conclusions, and to not just decide based on one person's hearsay what happened in a particular situation. We were taught how to pick out anything in someone's, testimony or story that sounds like it could be an untruth. We were taught to look for clues that the person telling the story might be misleading us in one way or another. We were taught a lot of ways to make sure that whatever we were being told was correct. And we were also taught, of course, in both of these classes, that you needed to wait until you had every single part of the story, every single person involved's account of what happened during the event, and you need to collect all evidence necessary to prove the event. Because last time I checked, we're in a democratic country where you are innocent until proven guilty, and that means that prior to, any court case, both of them were considered innocent. And you need proof these days. This isn't the days of the Salem witch trials where you can just point at someone and say, I don't like that person, so I'm going to tell everyone that they did such and such horrible thing to someone else in the town or to me, and I'll get my little friends on board to say they were witnesses, and that's more than enough to prove your case. Hearsay just doesn't work these days because we know that people lie. Another example that's not really linked to the Johnny Depp thing, but something from my own personal life, I knew a couple people before they became big names in, whatever industry they're in, and I'm related to one person in a certain industry that makes you pretty popular. And before I got too sick to do a lot of it, I used to enjoy going out to events where celebrities would be. And there was one celebrity, someone, I believe on either Reddit or Tumblr, it was one of those sites, had written their account of how a certain celebrity male who will remain nameless in this video had been in the same it wasn't a hotel, it was like a convention center of some kind, but they were basically in the same place as this girl who was posting on Reddit. And she gave a very detailed account of how this guy had apparently seen her in the lobby, gone on and on, you know, complimenting her, flirting with her, telling her how beautiful she was, asking her like, oh, are you a model? How can you not be a model? Just look at you, you're gorgeous, and really buttering her up. And then even more, very graphically described account about how they'd both gotten onto the same elevator apparently, and he had essentially gotten her to suck him off. And she was blasting this all over Reddit and trying to get as many people to read as possible because she was like, oh, I, you know, blew a celebrity and stuff before they got super famous, and she knew it would get her a lot of attention, and it did. It got her a ton of attention, some positive, some negative. Some people thought it was really creepy and sleazy that this actor was apparently going up to random girls in lobbies and complimenting them to a point where they were like stoned on their own ego and loading them into an elevator to give him a blowjob. And other people were like, oh, I'm so jealous. I can't believe you got to, you know, experience that with this person. Like, he's so hot. I wish it had been me. And yeah, it was very divided. But I was looking at, like I said, the very detailed account this girl had given at the time. She really went far with explaining it. Of course, she was answering everyone's questions, and someone had asked her when this event had taken place, and she told them, and I'd happened to be in the same place at the same time this allegedly happened as that actor in question. And I was like, how is it that I was sitting in a room with the guy like only across the room from me? I saw him interacting with other human beings. I saw him talking to people right there where I can go up and physically touch him if I want to. How is it that if he was there, he was also on this elevator? That doesn't make a lot of sense unless he has a twin nobody knows about, or he's perfected the art of cloning. I'm pretty sure she was lying. But of course, because everyone was jealous of her because of the actor it was that she claimed did this, everyone was so quick to believe it and think, oh, she's the luckiest girl in the world because she got this experience, or like, oh, that's disgusting. Why am I bringing this story up right now? Because although very few rape and domestic abuse allegations are fake, they do exist, and even if it's only 5% of the entire country, when you think about how many people live here, that's still a lot of people lying about something that horrible. And whether you come clean about it and say, yes, I lied, that never actually happened, or not, people will believe what they want to believe, and you just ruin that person's life forever. People will always call them a rapist. People will always say, like, oh, the court failed that girl, even if she says, I lied for money. It's a horrible, evil thing to do to someone. Just a quick disclaimer, I in no way condone domestic violence, rape, or any other violence against another human being at all. I'm simply stating the fact that there are times when people do fabricate stories about celebrities in order to get their 5 minutes of fame. I don't want anyone to think that I am okay with any of the abuse that I just stated in this video. Not at all. In fact, I've been a victim of all of it in the past, so I know how hard it is. I went into the Johnny Depp case understanding that either person could be the victim and either person could be the perpetrator of whatever had happened with this domestic violence allegation. And on top of keeping up with that case itself, with that story itself, I was also keeping up with what they were doing outside the story, and I started noticing that Johnny Depp was showing up to red carpets, pretty much falling over and needing to be held up and appearing extremely intoxicated. I was seeing that people were saying they were having a harder time getting on with him now, where he used to be kind of chill to work with. I started seeing that his acting was suffering, that he wasn't getting cast in as many roles as he was before, and all this was starting to point to the fact that, okay, she is probably in the right here, because everything he's doing, every behavior he is displaying points to him being alcoholic again, possibly on drugs. Then I watched as, I'm sorry, I always forget what her name is, but you know who I'm talking about, with his wife or ex-wife, I'm not really sure at the minute. But I'm going to call her wife just to keep it simple. When his wife started speaking out more about it, and she actually had friends who I believe had witnessed it happen on another occasion, that this was not the first time he had hit her, and other people had seen it, and she was bringing eyewitnesses forth and everything. And I mean, okay, I didn't keep up with the entire story. I kind of stopped right there because, not that I wasn't interested in it, but I just honestly forgot about it and moved on to other things instead. But let's face it, these days, anyone who goes to court with their friend claiming that they were a witness to a crime committed, especially a domestic violence crime, knows that the judge is going to want proof. They know that the judge will want to see surveillance video or a phone video or photo on the phone or something that proves it. And I have very serious doubts that her friends would have gone to court, especially trying to sue someone as enormously famous as Johnny Depp, with absolutely no evidence that he ever did anything. So at the end of the day, looking at all the facts about this case, I realized, yes, it's very likely that he did hit his wife, probably numerous times, and that she was basically completely in the right when it comes down to it. And I thought that was really horrible and disgusting, and for me personally, I no longer wanted to support him. I thought that it was absolutely awful. I couldn't see him the same way anymore. So I decided I would prefer not to watch his movies now. Someone I know has always really enjoyed Johnny Depp. They really like his acting. They like the kinds of movies that he's in and the stories that are in those movies, and they've just always been a big fan. And when I told them about this story, they were extremely disappointed, as well they should have been, like all of us were about it. That they didn't deny that he did it, though. I mean, there is really no denying it when you look at all the evidence against him. But they said that watching his movies in the past got them through a couple of really dark times in their lives. Something about his acting style and the characters he portrays really helped them get through something really, really horrible and traumatic that I'm not going to mention here because it's frankly nobody's business. But it was really bad stuff. And I thought about it for a minute, and I was like, I don't like Johnny Depp right now. I don't think what he's done is okay, but at the end of the day, it's not hurting me at all if she wants to keep watching his movies. I mean, it's not like she's going off spending a ton of money on a concert he's doing live or something. They're movies she already had in the house, and at the end of the day, he's always going to have enough stands backing him that one person deciding they don't want to watch his movies when they are released, it's really not going to affect him at all in the long run. I just leave the room when she puts his movies in, or I go on the computer and work or something so that I don't have to be present during it, but I recognize the fact that she has her own reasons for enjoying those films, and her enjoying Johnny Depp's acting talents and her enjoying the kinds of movies he is in does not at all mean that she supports anything that he's done. Not in the slightest. That is the other huge issue lately with boycotting culture. A lot of people have gotten into this horrible, vicious mindset that once someone has done something, whether there's been proof backing it up or not, and that they don't want anything to do with them anymore, that if you still enjoy that person's work, it means you stand behind what they did. So by that right, this person that I was talking about is totally okay with domestic violence. Yeah, go ahead and just hit your wife all day long. She doesn't care. She stands behind it, and she's fine with alcoholism and drug use just because she still likes Johnny Depp's acting. Do you hear how childish and ludicrous that sounds coming out of my mouth right now? How just bizarre a concept that is. I mean, it really is childish. It's the same as when you were like 10 years old on the playground and little Ashley did something that upset your friend Cassie, and Cassie said, well, if you're friends with me, you can't be friends with her anymore. Remember how that really hurt your feelings because you were like, well, she didn't do anything to me, though. She did something to you, and that's terrible, and I think that what she did to you was awful, but, I mean, I shouldn't have to give up something that makes me happy just to make you happy. That's a very manipulative attitude. And what you need to understand also is you don't necessarily have to look the person in the eye and tell them to their face, I think that you support domestic violence because you like to watch Johnny Depp's movies. You don't have to do it that way. Vague posting on Twitter and stuff is just as bad. If you see that your friend is going, oh, there's a new Johnny Depp movie coming on, I can't wait to see it, his character concept looks really cool, I think it's going to be an awesome film, can't wait, got my tickets already, and you start posting nothing but Twitter rampage posts about how evil he is and how you don't want to watch it because you are better than her and you don't believe in domestic violence. Like, again, do you see how nasty and negative that is? Here's a concept I know a lot of people are going to have a tough time swallowing. Anger doesn't solve any problems, ever. All it does is give rise to more anger and more problems. Because when you directly attack someone or something that is important to someone without asking them about it first, which means you assume something of them without any prior knowledge, you are attacking a part of their character in their mind, and they are going to defend it. So those angry posts and like screaming to high heavens about how horrible you think people are because they like Johnny Depp or whoever else in the world, they're not solving any problems. They're not helping anyone's cause. Just yelling, it's bad, it's bad. It's just like the, I know I'm opening a can of worms with this, but it's just like pro-life versus pro-choice arguments. Just screaming, women have a right to control their own bodies and you don't care about women's rights and you don't care about feminism, or saying, you're a baby murderer, you support women just using abortion as birth control and you're fine with the slaughter of children. Both of those don't help anybody at all, ever. You're just screaming back and forth at each other, again, like children. You're an adult. You're a competent adult. You know deep inside you would never want anyone to assume anything bad about you. You'd rather them ask you questions. So do that for them. Extend the same kindness. Stop saying that anyone who supports someone you don't like is a bad person or that they support whatever horrible thing you've decided they've done. because it makes them feel awful and it makes them feel like they're no longer allowed to have something that helped them at some point in their life. I'm sorry about how long and ranty this was, but I felt it was very important to discuss, and I hope that some of you had my message sink in, and you'll hopefully go apologize to anyone you've done this to now, and say, I'm really sorry. I realize now that, posting stuff or saying stuff to your face about how horrible I thought this person or that brand was, and how I think that if anyone supports them, they support like some terrible thing as well. I know that's not true of you, and it was really unfair for me to say that without asking you why you still stand behind it. Just do that. Apologies are all anyone ever wants from each other, and they're not difficult to give. As always, do something that makes you happy today, no matter what anyone else thinks about it, and I'll see you all soon.